current news podcast.
With Elu and Jesse.
Yes.
Okay, so you send us this breaking news piece from the Daily Beast, and wow, this new lawsuit against Sean Diddy Combs is
Yeah,
this one's heavy stuff.
it is.
We're talking serious allegations.
Very serious.
Of rape and abuse.
Yeah.
And, you know, we always want to be mindful that this is just one source at this point, just one side of the story.
Absolutely.
But let's, for this deep dive at least, let's unpack what we know from this article, the core details of what's being alleged here.
Yeah, I think that's important, just to start with that clear understanding of the accusations themselves.
Okay, so the article focuses on this new accuser. She's described as a model who says she first met Diddy back in 2020.
Okay.
And according to her, the relationship kind of escalated really quickly. She claims she was flown back and forth to different homes by Diddy's associates.
Wow.
And that's when things allegedly took a turn.
Hmm.
She describes being pressured to use drugs and alcohol,
Oh, wow.
specifically mentioning ketamine, sometimes to the point of losing consciousness.
Oh, jeez.
And this is where it gets really disturbing.
Yeah.
She alleges that Diddy raped her while she was unconscious,
Mhm.
leading to a pregnancy later on.
And it's that detail about, allegedly being pressured with the drugs and alcohol.
Right.
Potentially to the point of incapacitation.
Yeah.
That really stands out to me.
Right.
Because sadly, it echoes themes we've seen in previous accusations against Diddy.
Exactly. And it's not just the assault itself, right? The article says that this woman felt pressured by Diddy's associates to have an abortion, which ultimately resulted in a miscarriage.
Oh, my God.
It's just a lot to process.
It's a lot.
And then on top of all of that, there's this detail that she claims to have witnessed Diddy physically abuse other women as well.
You're right. It's a lot to unpack.
Yeah.
And it's important, like you said, to emphasize again that these are allegations at this point.
Right.
But it paints a very disturbing picture.
It does.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It really does make you think about the bigger picture here.
It does because, I mean, for me, it's impossible to ignore the similarities between what this woman is alleging and what we've heard from others about Diddy, right? Like, is there a pattern here?
That's the question, isn't it? And it's important to look at this case
Right.
within the context of those previous accusations.
Yeah.
Just last year, for example,
Mm-hmm.
his ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura,
Right.
filed a lawsuit alleging years of physical and emotional abuse during their relationship.
And while that one was settled, it does seem like it might have opened the floodgates a bit.
It did. We saw, more women coming forward with their own stories.
Yeah.
Many of them sharing those common threads we were just talking about, allegations of intoxication, manipulation, abuse of power, that sort of thing.
Right. And speaking of that whole abuse of power angle, it's interesting to me how Diddy's lawyer seems to be approaching this new lawsuit.
Okay.
The article mentions this whole successful black man narrative being used as part of his defense.
Yeah.
What do you make of that strategy?
Well, it's a strategy that's been used before.
Yeah.
And it's definitely a risky one, by framing Diddy as a potential target.
Right.
Because of his success and race, the defense could be attempting to discredit the accusers,
Interesting.
suggesting perhaps that they're motivated by money or seeking fame
Right.
by making these accusations.
So it's kind of like a double-edged sword then?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because while it might resonate with some, it also risks alienating others
Right.
and could even backfire if not handled carefully, especially in a case like this where we're already seeing a history of similar accusations.
Yeah, that's what makes this so fascinating to me. It's about so much more than just one lawsuit.
Right.
It raises all these questions about power dynamics, especially in the music industry,
Absolutely.
about believing accusers, and ultimately about accountability.
It forces us to confront some uncomfortable truths
Yeah.
about how these situations are often handled,
For
both in the public eye and within the legal system itself.
So where does all of this leave us then? It seems like we're looking at a much bigger story than just these allegations, right?
We are. This new accusation against Diddy with these really troubling details, it really does seem to point to a potentially larger issue, especially within the music industry.
Right, like this one news article kind of cracked open the door to a much broader conversation.
Exactly. And it's a conversation that's been building for some time now, especially with the hashtag #MeToo movement. It makes you think about how these cases are handled publicly, how accusations are perceived, and what it takes for real accountability to happen.
Especially with this successful black man defense strategy being used, it's a bold move, to say the least.
Yeah. It is. And only time will tell how effective it'll actually be in this case. But regardless of the legal outcome here. I think it's clear that this conversation surrounding Diddy and this whole issue of power dynamics in the music industry, it isn't going away anytime soon.
You've given us a lot to think about, that's for sure.
It's a complex issue. It really is, with no easy answers. But what we do know is this: every voice that speaks up, every story that's shared, it all kind of adds to this momentum for change. This case, along with all the others, it forces us to confront these uncomfortable truths about power, about privilege, and the systems that often protect abusers.
And how those systems fail to support those who come forward.
Exactly, exactly. And I think that's a key takeaway for us today. This conversation needs to continue. We all have a role to play in demanding accountability and working towards a world where these situations are dealt with in a way that's just and equitable for everyone involved.
It's a lot to process, but thank you for taking this deep dive with us.
Of course, of course. It's about staying informed, asking the tough questions, and never shying away from these difficult conversations.
Well said. Well said. And to everyone listening, thank you for joining us for this deep dive. It's been a heavy one, but these are important conversations to have. Stay tuned for more deep dives coming soon. Until then, take care.
Turn the dial to the daily news. Turn the dial to the daily news. Turn the dial to the daily news. Bringing voices, headlines, and shoes. We turn the dial to the daily news.